topic is discussing the contrast between the treatment, behavior, and status of women in relationships and love in the Renaissance, and how it differs from modern times and modern relations. In the readings from the Renaissance, women are portrayed as the sole value of being a partner in a relationship rather than granting them a higher status with an individualistic value like in modern times.
In these stories from the Decameron and the Mandrake, women undergo poor treatment from their male partners, such as experiencing tragic love in the fourth day that ends in suicide or being forced to give yourself up to a man like Luceria was forced to do in the Mandrake. These stories also demonstrate the state of marriages during the time, typically founded on wealth and status rather than love. However, it is clear that the treatment of women has improved in modern times, and their statuses have been uplifted and treated as an equal in the relationship, differing greatly from the treatment demonstrated from the writings in the Renaissance. Love and partnership has also become a central theme in modern marriages, most likely due to how women are viewed and the changes within.
The institution of marriage has changed greatly from the Renaissance to modern days, as demonstrated by excerpts from the Decameron and the Mandrake, as compared to modern day studies. These changes include marrying for love rather than wealth and status, which is a direct result of women gaining power in society.
In the novellas of the Decameron and throughout the play of the Mandrake, women experience objectification and are treated in a way that demonstrates their only purpose in life is to serve as the wife of a man. In many novellas and throughout the play, women are given value based on their beauty and the benefit men would experience through marrying them. Therefore, the only reason a man and woman are brought together is for the advantages of marriage, and not for love, which differs from modern times. For example, in the Decameron, there are two stories that depict the treatment of women and the control men had over women in their marriage and other relationships. One story, from the fourth day of the Decameron, first novella, is a story about a woman named Gismonda, who is served the heart of her lover after her father discovers their affair and kills him out of revenge. In the beginning of the novella, it is explained how her father, Tancredi, was passionately fond of his daughter and was unable to part with her, refusing to marry her off even when she was several years older than the usual age for taking a husband. Yet, Gismonda fell in love with a man named Giasquardo, who was described as having an exceedingly humble birth. When talking about her love for Giasquardo, she says, "I did not take a lover at random, as many women do, but deliberately chose Giasquardo in preference to any other, only conceding my love to him after a careful reflection, and through the patience and good judgment of us both, I have been long enjoying the gratification of my desires." Boccaccio 297. The two fell secretly in love with each other, as it was known Tancredi would never allow Gismonda to marry Giasquardo, having total control over her life and relationships. As the novella progresses, Tancredi discovers the love the two have for each other, and orders for Giasquardo to be captured and murders him. Tancredi then serves Gismonda the heart of her lover, and when Gismonda discovers Giasquardo is dead, she decides to kill herself with poison, as she cannot live without the man she loves. This story exemplifies the total control men had over women during the Renaissance, and the lack of regard for women's desires and wishes in life. It exhibits how Gismonda would rather be dead than live a life under the control of her father without her lover. Another novella that is similar to this is also in the fourth day, but the ninth story. This story too ends in a tragic love, where the woman, the wife of Guillaume de Rousseline, commits suicide because she cannot be with her lover due to the control and objectification of woman. In this novella, the husband kills his wife's lover and serves her his heart and claims it to be a boar's heart. After discovering the truth, the wife jumps out of her window because, similar to Gismonda, she cannot continue life in a marriage that is simply for status, rather a relationship that involves true love. This story demonstrates the objectification of woman, as Guillaume de Rousseline was willing to kill a defenseless man because of hatred and the desire to maintain his status with her as his wife. In addition, the Mandrake exemplifies this notion of women only being desired for their beauty, as in the play Messer Nicia creates an entire plan to obtain Lucrezia as his partner only after being attracted to her physically. After an entire play of trickery and deceit, Messer Nicia successfully sleeps with Lucrezia, and she gives herself up to Messer Nicia. Lucrezia says in Act 5 of the play, "Your shrewdness, my husband's foolishness, and my mother's silliness, and my confessor's wickedness have led me to do what I would never have done on my own accord. Therefore, I accept that it was the will of heaven for the things to be this way, and as it is not for me to question the will of heaven, I submit. I shall take you as my lord, master, and guide. You will be my father. You will be my champion. I want you to be my idol of goodness. If my husband wished for a single night, I want to be forever." Machiavelli 478 to 479. This demonstrates that Lucrezia knew she had no control over her life, and that if her husband wanted her to be given up, she would be, like an object being passed between men. These novellas and the play of the Mandrake display the treatment of women as objects and their lack of status during the Renaissance, and that there has been an improvement in relationships and treatment of women in modern times, which we will talk about later on in the video.
Love and affairs not only is a large recurring theme in the Decameron, but is particularly evident in this novella. The seventh day, second story, we take a look into the relationship filled with deceit and betrayal. Parolina, the main character and the woman in the relationship, successfully tricks her husband into not discovering her presence of her lover. She strays away from her own marriage and falls deep into the trap of finding love in another man. Adultery and deceit take a lot of work and strategic lies. Parolina tricks her husband into thinking her lover is in the bathtub because he's solely there as a potential buyer, and inspecting it before he purchases the bathtub. Her husband is a hard-working man who spends most of his time and his days working all day, and Parolina uses that to her advantage, an opportunity to deceive and cheat on her husband. Parolina successfully tricks him and gets away with her affair without any remorse or consequences to her actions. However, to keep in mind, Parolina was a woman stuck in a marriage where she was forced into, like many other women in this time period. She was faced with the same problem of not loving her own husband. She was left curious and in need of true love, so she branched out and found love in another man. This novella ends the same as many other novellas, where it ends in an affair of love, trickery, and deceit from the woman in the relationship tricking the man.
In modern times, it is clear to most people that marriages are not built on power and status. Most commonly, people marry for love and partnership, having a close to equal role in each other's lives. What is not as obvious to people is how we transition from marrying for status to marrying for love. Historians and psychologists believe that this was due to societal changes involving the value of marriage and child rearing, although their results were not consistent with that conclusion. Surprisingly, we are informed that in spite of societal movements, the value of marriage and having children did not change. Neither have the values that govern a successful relationship, but the status of women has changed. The sole reason for marriages being so different was that women had gained more respect and power over recent years. Although still not perfectly equal, female status has grown exponentially since the Renaissance and has allowed them to exist on their own, not just as a partner to their husband. By gaining economic, social, and political freedoms, it changed modern society so that every individual has a personal and a social identity. In our present society, partners are perceived as equal. Since everybody can be a breadwinner these days, and usually is, the need for coupling and or marriage arises from other sources. Rather than women marrying for economic stability and power, they were now able to gain other things from marriage. This is where love comes in. By giving financial freedoms to women and giving them a personal identity, they can find a partnership that works well for them specifically. If Gismonda was able to pick her own husband and was not constrained by the wishes of her father, she could have found a happy marriage with Guiscardo. However, this was unable to happen, and she was not allowed to be in this relationship for love. This also shows how women had little say in their own future, which were often decided by husbands or their fathers. Once again, in modern society, we allow women the freedom to choose and limit this male influence. The power of women is directly tied to changes in the institution of marriage, allowing them to make their own decisions and marry more for love rather than for necessity.
In these stories from the Decameron and the Mandrake, women undergo poor treatment from their male partners, such as experiencing tragic love in the fourth day that ends in suicide or being forced to give yourself up to a man like Luceria was forced to do in the Mandrake. These stories also demonstrate the state of marriages during the time, typically founded on wealth and status rather than love. However, it is clear that the treatment of women has improved in modern times, and their statuses have been uplifted and treated as an equal in the relationship, differing greatly from the treatment demonstrated from the writings in the Renaissance. Love and partnership has also become a central theme in modern marriages, most likely due to how women are viewed and the changes within.